Okay, the meeting is called to order. And we have a quorum and, oh, the meeting number is 1812. And we have a few people with us through the remote Zoom, and we have a few people in the room, so we'll try to pay attention to both the remote and the people present. We have a quorum tonight with all our regular members present, and I would like to welcome David Leeson. Very nice to have an alternate.
Thank you so
We
much.
invite you to join in all the conversation, but unless one of the members is absent or steps down for conflict, you won't be able to vote. But
No
please
worries.
join in the conversation as we go through the agenda.
Yes, thank you very much.
On added agenda items, there were two things I thought we should add, maybe in business meeting. One is the text that we are submitting for the annual report. And the other one is a follow-up to the sidewalk fee discussion from the POCD implementation discussion at our last meeting. Because I think both of those just need a quick conversation. If somebody is amenable, it would be nice to add those to the agenda.
I'll make a motion that we add the two items to our agenda under the business meeting portion of the agenda.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Under legal notices, our legal notice tonight is notice that the commission will hold a public hearing. It says on Tuesday, September 28th at 6:30 p.m. on a special use permit, PZ 2021-26. The applicant is Caitlin Pareto, seeking to construct an approximately 5,095 square foot dentist office at 4 Wells Road. The full application is available on the Planning and Zoning Commission's webpage on the town's website. All interested persons may attend this meeting and provide verbal or written comments to the board regarding the application. It ran in the Journal Enquirer edition September 18th and September 22nd. Next on the agenda is public participation. Is there any item that's not listed on the agenda that someone from the public would like to discuss? No one in the room? Anyone on Zoom who wants to discuss something? Okay, no public participation tonight. So next up would be approval of minutes. Anybody know anything that needs to be edited?
I'm good.
The couple of items I noted, I think on page 11, line 430, instead of renewal energy, it should be renewable energy. I think on page 18, the computer numbering went fun, because the findings are 4, 5, and 6 instead of 1, 2, and 3. But I suspect it was one of those computer overrides where, but I don't want anyone to think that there's findings 1, 2, and 3 that are missing.
Let me just find it.
I'm sure that was Peter's computer gave it new numbers. Anybody have anything else? If everybody is satisfied, then a motion to approve the minutes is in order.
I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes of regular meeting 18/11 of September 28th as amended.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. Receipt of applications. Do we have any new applications? Okay. Do we have anything under performance bonds, actions, permit extension, and road acceptance? Then I think our next item is the continued public hearing on PZ 2021-25, 33 Apothecary Hall Road. It's a recycled concrete products of Connecticut, Inc. It's a special use permit for a volume reduction facility to reestablish the conditions allowed under an expired permit. It's in zone M1, map 57, block 48, lot 38. I invite the applicant to come.
Good evening, Tim Coon here representing RCTC this evening, as well as Herb Holden. The site, I did bring the site plan again. It's located at 33 Apothecaries Hall Road in the M1 zone. We did make our full presentation at the last meeting. Actually, it was 2 meetings ago, last month. And I believe the only outstanding items that came out of that meeting is one was the question of the maximum height of the pile. 2 was language for the approval to address existing components of the operation that may not exactly conform to the volume reduction facility regulations. And 3 was clarification of the renewal procedure. And I believe all of these issues were addressed or have been addressed in the most recent memo from Mike. We have seen this memo and reviewed it as well, and believe that the motion fairly and clearly addresses these outstanding issues with regard to the maximum pile height. And Mike could summarize if he wants, but I'll just throw this out there. The way the motions are written, it establishes a maximum pile elevation of, I believe, 185, which is 30 feet above the elevation of the driveway entrance. And again, we agree with this. This is the place where the site is visible from the streets, so it makes sense to establish the 30-foot maximum height from there. And it's also by setting it as a maximum elevation, we don't got to worry about the base of the height or any of those other factors. And it's also a very easy thing to check when it comes to our yearly renewals, as far as going out there and just surveying the highest point on the pile. This motion also includes language to clarify that the yearly renewal will be via a staff issued zoning permit, which is consistent with the volume reduction facility regulations, as opposed to the prior approvals, which had coming back to the commission, which was more in line with the excavation special use permit. And finally, he does provide language in his memo with regard to covering the existing nonconformities of the site in relation to the volume reduction facility. And we're happy with that, pleased with everything. So if Mike has anything to add, or we're certainly happy to answer any other questions.
Any questions from any commission members for either Mike or Tim? Mike, I guess the 2 questions I have. I assume because this is a material handling facility, they are not permitted to, I'll say, dig the base deeper. I just want to verify that for the height of the pile, that does not enable them to go down deeper so the pile can be bigger from, I'll say, the bottom.
Yep. So that is one of the main changes from the way that the previous approval was drafted, is that this establishes an elevation basically above sea level. So it can only be that high. I guess the main purpose of this is so that they can't generally expand or start dealing with where do we measure it, at what point is it visible, and we also wanted to deal with, again, visibility from Apothecary's Hall. Your question about digging down, yeah, I suppose if they excavated below the pile, that would bring the overall grade down, which means they could get more volume into the site before they got to the 135 or 185 elevation. The reason why we went in this direction is because some of the record, if you review when this application was considered historically, it's very clear that the grades on the site, because it's dirt, change. So I don't know how else we could deal with that other than, you know, putting in some, I guess we could add language which limited the low, you know, the base elevation of the pile to not fluctuate, you know, by more or less than a certain number, if you thought that would be a concern.
I guess in my mind, what I was thinking is it's really not an excavation anymore. It's a material processing approval. So
Yep.
in my mind, I guess what I'm thinking is they can't dig it down deeper.
Right. Yeah, you know, and I think we talked last time about, and I spoke with Tim about, because my original thought was, well, we'll go with an elevation and a total cubic volume of the pile. But because what comes in and goes out and the speed by which that happens is a little bit dependent on the projects they get and the buyers, they don't necessarily know the pile could get real big very quickly and then be gone. So I agree with you that this is a material processing and not an excavation permit. And so excavating the site would be a different use, which is not part of this approval.
I think that solves what I was thinking. The other thing I was thinking is we've had another site across the road where it was being transferred to another owner for another use. And if that were to happen here, how would they restore it or leave it?
So the original approvals and because there's, again, the idea is they're bringing material in, there is no reclamation that's required, because the idea is they're working at grade. So the buildings and the processing and the crusher and all those things are basically at grade. So if the site stops functioning and they close themselves out of there, yes, I think that and what you're getting at is that in theory they could leave the pile.
Yeah.
So
Or they could spread the pile around, I guess.
yeah, I mean, they could spread the pile around. We have regulations that deal with filling. So you can't just spread 500 cubic yards of fill around and call it a day. I think Ruth can correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's 100. Is it 100 cubic yards per year?
Yeah.
So Tim, can you give a rough estimate of the average size of the pile in cubic yards, just so we have an idea?
I don't know that off the top of my head. I might be able to scale it.
I mean, are we in excess of 100 cubic yards?
Oh, yes, 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 easily.
So the idea would be they couldn't spread the pile.
No, no.
That answered the two questions I had. Does anybody else have anything?
The only other thing that I wanted to mention, because I want to get it into on the public hearing, because we have other facilities with the same use, is in my proposed motion for consideration, you'll see the points that I made. I made 3 of them, which outlines how the major changes to the conditions from the previous permit. Number 3, basically, as Tim mentioned, there are pre-existing non-conforming components of this operation, which have been approved, reviewed, and reapproved by the commission over and over and over again. And just because the permit expired, that does not force the applicant to willfully terminate those nonconformities. So I want to just clearly state for the record that we're not holding them to a different standard. We're not waiving those requirements or saying that they don't apply or they're not prudent in other circumstances. But given the existing operation, which continued consistently throughout, even following the permit expiration, they have a vested right to continue that operation in the same manner. And so there's no inconsistency or lack of transparency. I want to be very clear that that's not what I'm suggesting the commission do.
Everybody is satisfied with the conversation, and doesn't feel the need for further conversation. I will see if there is anybody from the public who would like to comment on this. Anybody in the room? Anybody on Zoom? Okay, well, I think the commission has asked its questions. The public has raised their hand anywhere, so
I got one
sure.
question on condition 2. We keep on missing the deadline. Why do we keep on missing the deadline? We're like the second or third time we've missed the timeline to come into review.
I think at the last meeting, we did explain that the main reason was that Kirksey passed away and it kind of slipped through the cracks at that point in time. And then it was followed by COVID and other things. So
But
the
it
other
was
thing
2 years
with
now.
with the new approval process, with it being zoning permit and the fact that now that the main thing that we're checking is essentially the height of the pile. It's much simpler. It's going to be a much easier thing to do to get the materials in for the resubmission.
So to clarify, you guys are gonna come in once a year for renewal. That will trigger staff to go out and check.
Correct.
And make sure things.
For the zoning permit, yes.
And just to touch on that, one of the conditions that I added was 22. The applicant shall be responsible for demonstrating compliance with this elevation upon renewal of the zoning permit. So the idea is they have to put staff in a position of being able to find that they are compliant. And it's their responsibility to obtain that permit. And I included in condition 28, if compliance with the town zoning regulations and this approval cannot be demonstrated to the satisfaction of the commission staff as part of each yearly permit renewal request, the applicant shall be required to obtain a renewal of the special permit from the commission. So if staff looks at it and they're not comfortable with something they see, they don't feel that they've done the measurement right, or they're not giving staff the information that they need, then they have to go to you.
Good enough.
Is there a tickler system that the town staff has so that if people don't come in, you know?
It's actually on my goals for this year to build that.
I mean, it's hard for staff to keep track of that. There's so many applications and so much stuff, and every day you have 3 people that are due or off.
Right.
That's a tall ask for you guys.
It is, and it shouldn't be their
Yeah.
responsibility, but when you have a history of people not coming in.
Yeah, basically we just give a slap on the hand, like, oh, you missed your deadline by 2 years, sorry.
Yeah.
I'd like to see a little more
but maybe,
force behind that.
but if they have a tickler system and they can send out a notice of non-compliance, then they're starting to build a
Yeah.
compliance history.
And now, if you look at condition 12, the activity work prior to shall not commence within 12 months. Hold on, I just lost it. The applicant shall be 13, sorry. The applicant shall be responsible to request and obtain a zoning permit renewal annually. Failure to request and obtain an annual renewal shall make this approval null and void. So it's a condition of this approval that they obtain that renewal. The responsibility is on them. So if they don't, they're dead. The permit is, they're in violation of their approval.
Very good. Okay, everybody is satisfied, then I think we could close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing for application PZ 2021-25, 33 Apothecaries Hall Road for a special use permit for a volume reduction facility for recycled concrete products of Connecticut.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous. Since we have a potential motion here from Mike, does somebody want to move to approve?
Make a motion, we approve the application PZ 2021-25 for 33 Apothecaries Hall Road for a special use permit for volume reduction facility, recycled concrete products of Connecticut. This approval is granted subject to conformance with the application materials and the following conditions and modifications. So under the reference plan section, we have items 1 through 5. Conditions that must be met within 90 days. We have items 6 through 9. And general conditions, we have items 10 through 29, all from a memo from Mike D'Amato, dated September 2nd, 2021, and revised October 5th, 2021.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
We have a motion on the table. Is there any discussion? Okay. Then we'll go to the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. So that's approved. The next item on the agenda is PZ 2021-26, which is 4 Wells Road. It's a special use permit to construct a medical office. My understanding from Ruth is the public notice to the abutters has not been completed. Is that correct?
No, and it's completed now.
It's completed, yes, it wasn't done in time for this meeting.
Okay, so we can't act on it till they've had their time tick out. So it needs to be postponed to the next regular meeting to give the public full ability to.
Question, since we opened the public hearing already, how long can we keep it open?
We didn't open the public hearing yet.
It's listed here as a continuance.
Postponed.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't open.
Yeah, we never.
Okay. Well, in that case, I make a motion that we postpone the public hearing for PZ 2021-26 4 Wells Road, special use permit for construction of a medical office until our next meeting, which would be October 26th.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
A motion and a second, any discussion? Did you want to say something, Frank?
No.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous, and that completes our continued public hearings. And we have no new public hearings, no old business. New business, no other business, any correspondence? Okay, that takes us to the business meeting, and we added 2 items there. One was the town puts out an annual report each year, and we were asked for a contribution, and Ruth has drafted it, so pass it down. Just want to make sure everybody's okay with this in our submittal. When the town seeks these pieces for the annual report, is there any guidance on how much space you have or what they're looking for?
The most guidance that I received was bulletize, try to bulletize, at the same time, offer up some pictures. That came together. But this is about the size that was in last year. They used that as kind of a template. And, you know, some of it's pretty standard format.
The one thing I was thinking about that we put a lot of time into in the past year was that warehouse point study and the blue ditch. And we completed the study. We haven't taken action on the recommendations. But it might be worth either mentioning the study, or if you need a picture, maybe the cover of that study,
Yeah, that's a good idea.
paste it in. And I don't know if there's anything memorable that the rest of you want to.
A lot of hours.
Yeah, because that's, yeah, my feeling was when I looked at this, it didn't look like we did that much because the numbers weren't that high. But it feels like we did a lot. And maybe that's because we spent so many hours in that warehouse point study.
Happy to leave that in.
Okay, and then, yeah, obviously we want to change it now that we have 2 open positions open.
So
Nothing memorable to you guys over the past year. There's nothing memorable to me. It all blends together.
And we got the casino, was that last year?
Yeah, more than the
2
year.
years ago.
This year,
Silverman
this
Day
year,
was the
Oh,
last.
silver.
this year we had the rejection of the casino.
But we had the, what was going to be Sardilli, and then it became something else.
Right.
That was, but I'm not sure we should tell stories about the projects.
That's just the project.
I mean, if you want to add a mention also, discussion of enforcement also.
Oh, yeah.
We also looked over, your reports were very
Yeah, they were.
helpful on compliance and enforcement.
If that's the first year we started doing that, when Joe started coming out with those, which was
Great job.
good. Years ago, we didn't do anything.
No, but their spreadsheets were fabulous.
They are still great.
And then I guess most recently, we've collaborated with the other boards to try to come to a consensus on open space. too.
right. And it, yeah. There's a planning and development page too. That I think you mentioned that.
We gotta show the town get their money's worth.
We're
earning our
money. All right, so I have warehouse point study, enforcement reports, collaboration with other commissions, and that says 2 alternate members.
I agree.
This board had nothing to do with the Route 5 corridor study.
I'm sure historically,
Yeah, the town planner was. I think Ruben knows about it.
Yeah.
Nobody here knows about it, so.
We could add Dave's name to the upper portion of it as his alternate member. Mention everybody.
yeah, I was kind of snapshotting too, but I will.
What period is it?
It's fiscal year, so July 1, 2020
To June 30th.
Or what, yeah.
So then, yep. Okay,
Do you need anything else? Do you need
no, I
a
just wanted,
motion of?
I just wanted to share it, that's
Okay.
really all, I didn't want to be the only one reviewing it.
Okay,
And I can touch base with Mike on Warehouse Point. He's got a quick soundbite.
He's good at quick sound bites.
I'll take it.
The other thing that was discussed when we had the multi-commission conversation was the sidewalks and fee in lieu of sidewalks. And I vaguely recollect, and I could be wrong, and Mike will know. Did we need to revisit the fee each year? How do we set the fee? And is there an action item for us? Because it was very clear that everybody saw value in getting a fee for sidewalks and encouraged us to keep doing that. But I don't know if we need to do some annual, something to figure out what the cost per foot or cost per something.
I thought that was Lenny's job to figure out. the
yeah,
Well, it's Lenny's job to come up with the
Number.
But don't
number.
we have to
Correct.
ask and get a newer
It's-
number every year?
It's
something
your
in
all, it's your all's job to set the fee, and it says, like, correct, I'm not gonna quote it correctly, but it says it could be a minimum of 40% and a maximum, and a maximum of, I wanna say 90, but I don't think that's right. But the minimum is 40, and traditionally, that's all that this board has done. And Public Works' opinion is 40% of sidewalks is not
Not very
enough.
much.
Not enough, so if you're going to take money in lieu of, it should be closer
To the top.
to the
90.
to whatever, I mean, you're trying to make it reasonable for the,
Town to get
Developer.
sidewalks. Well, we
But-
also want to have the sidewalks in the right places in town, and so
right. So
that's how they're funded.
that's the opinion of the DPW or engineering, we're all the same.
Or too low.
and there is no maximum, I'm just reading it now.
I could be wrong in the
It says
max, but
at
the
least 40%.
yeah. So, and 40 has just traditionally been the number
So,
everybody stuck with,
like
so.
when we do an approval that has a fee in lieu of sidewalks, do we have a boilerplate sentence we use that we need to work on?
You're muted, Mike.
Yeah, he's reading.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, I think, if I remember right, moving into meetings earlier in the year, it was more about the common practice of the commission to lean towards the 40%, and maybe that's what you were getting for
Yeah.
numbers coming in with estimates. Because there
I-
was an application that I thought
I
tried to move that needle away from 40% because you could, and I think it was Mike to read of the regs at the time. But it's that leap
May I make a
moving
suggestion
away.
that you investigate surrounding communities, Ellington,
Mhm.
South Windsor, Enfield, Suffield, and what their policy is and what they set their minimum.
Yeah, I can do that and report back.
You don't want
But
Yeah.
we should just come up with
With
a,
a
with
standard
a, with a standard
boilerplate.
number, right? So that not,
that we
at
put
every
into
review, we're not
every
thinking,
approval.
what are you
Right.
gonna be the fee in lieu of? We should just come up with a standard number saying that
Policy, this
we're gonna be
is it.
80% or 85 or pick a
Well-
number.
Well, I'm sure that the other towns have that same language. I would assume they have the same kind of language.
Because ours is just written as the minimum of, and there's no real other
See,
guidance here.
my opinion is I think it should vary because you're talking about, we'll take, for instance, this application that was prevented us, Wells Road. There's no sidewalks on the plans. There's nothing drawn on them.
No.
So it's Wells Road. There's not a business around that is gonna really connect to. I mean, we're never gonna run sidewalks down Wells Road. So
But there still should be the fee in lieu.
well, but wouldn't it be more reasonable for us to say, okay, well, do they need them? and we asked them for 40% is ridiculous, but you should lean more towards 60 to 70% versus if it's a place where we really want them, then that fee should be higher.
Then we don't grant the fee in lieu if we really want it.
Well, I mean,
Because if you start making arbitrary numbers for
But-
different
but the-
applicants, I think you're gonna have a hard
but
time.
the board in
trying to
tradition
come up with
has,
that number.
but this board has just said no money in lieu of because we wouldn't put sidewalks there either.
Well,
No,
recently.
we've
Never.
always asked for fee in lieu.
Yeah.
Never.
We haven't, as long as I've been here, we've never said you don't have to do anything.
If they're not on the plans, you'll still ask for money in lieu.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's not clear to me what the boilerplate language is and if we are collecting enough.
Well, we're not collecting enough
And I'm-
because it's not enough for us to do anything. And honestly, if you said to me, if I'm building a building and you said to me, you put the sidewalks in or you give me 40% of the value, which the town engineer comes up with.
They're gonna take 40 every day.
Well, me as a builder that does concrete work, I'm gonna say, I can still put them in for less than 40.
Oh, really?
So I'll put them in.
But doesn't it depend on
But-
how flat the site is?
Well, but if I'm a site contractor and I'm building the building, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
So it's, yeah, it's just nothing. I mean,
I mean, we do have developments that have sidewalks in front of them that connect to nothing.
I agree, I understand. And then now the town's trying to come up with money to figure out how to connect them.
No, that's not true. What they're trying to do, the town's trying to take the money that they got in lieu of and put sidewalks in Broadbrook or wherever they need them, certain places.
Yeah, we're running sidewalks up Reservoir to connect the Perry that connects to Depot where there are sidewalks. So,
Making like walking.
But I think that the percentage has to be across the board the
I
same
do too. And
with
I
all
think that
applications.
we need a.
And the places
and-
that we want sidewalks, we don't offer them the ability to take the fee in lieu of, because that's our decision of either taking the fee in lieu of or saying, no, we want sidewalks.
Joe's point is that there's sidewalks that perhaps he doesn't think should be there or going nowhere, which I'm agreement with many times. But that's not our project. Our prerogative is to set the number, to set the fee.
To go forward from here.
And then whoever decides where they go, I guess that's in their prerogative, not ours.
We obviously all want them connected, so it's gonna be a building in the middle, you're gonna connect them. They put the sidewalk in front of town, Mark, I saw that.
So Mike, did you have any suggestion for us? Or is it something we'll leave with you and Ruth to think about and come back with a suggestion?
So move.
Might be buffering or whatever.
75.
So, yeah,
Okay.
I can come back with a write-up on what the surrounding towns are doing.
And
What's
suggested
working.
boilerplate for going forward.
Yeah.
Okay. So. That takes care of business meeting, executive session, we have nothing, and. I motion to adjourn.
I just got one question. We kind of talked about warehouse point study. There's, should be something next that we need to do with that to move it forward, because now it's kind of stopped. So is it a public hearing? What's the next step that we have to do with it? Because like I say, we put a lot of effort into it and it's just shelved right now.
Yeah, there's,
What I understood from Mike, I think he's
Can't hear
talking,
you,
but
Mike.
he forgot to unmute, but I think on that one, it recommended a total change of the zoning, and Mike didn't think that the changes that were proposed, he thought it made too many zones in a small area, and he was gonna come up with an alternative, I thought, he just hasn't had time.
I mean, the intent was to try to make some of these places, we have an awful lot of non-conforming use there, to try to make them conforming and give people the opportunity to make additions or expansions to their homes without everything being,
I thought it was to also have I'll call it an architectural preferred look.
Right,
That if
Have
the
a
developer
cohesive
paid,
neighborhood.
right, so.
it would have a look. And I think Mike had vision on how to do that, but we're still.
No, the
Let
recording
everybody
stopped
else just
because
do it.
Mike's,
Yeah.
And we can record. Oh, is that?
Yeah, it stopped.
because he's the host.
So he must have logged off
I
and
suppose.
supposed log back on.
And he probably froze.
No.
I'm here, but I'm having a terrible time with audio on my side, so sorry if I'm distracted. I'm trying to fix it.
Yeah.
We were just discussing, I don't know if you heard what we were talking about, Mike.
I have heard, yeah, bits and pieces.
And we talked about sidewalks and getting to a standardized boilerplate and way of going forward. And we talked about, and asked you for your opinion, and we talked about the warehouse point study. And my perception that you felt Terry Hahn's recommendations were, we'll say, overly complex and had maybe too many zones, and there may be a better way to achieve the goal. You want to comment on one or both of those?
Yeah, I would say now that we're kind of through some of the other stuff that we've been dealing with and, we have the, Ruth in the planner spot, we can, our plan is to start looking at some of those long range implementation things that we've talked about. And so I think, by the, in the next couple of meetings, we can come up with a recommended approach to the warehouse point project specifically related to the sidewalks. I think the idea would be, if it doesn't contribute to the sidewalk and corridor plan that's in the POCD, then you establish a flat fee that's 80%, and that's what everybody pays.
Yeah, because I saw Windsor Locks kind of released their train station design plans and they plan to be completed in 2 years. So according to our studies, that was supposed to impact our downtown warehouse point area. So I would hope that, we can get something within the next 2 years put together. So we have some guidance for people that want to look on our side of the river to expand and develop.
I think there's a lot we can do with that study that is perhaps same goals are accomplished, just with a different approach that's more user-friendly.
Great. So I guess we're asking for you and Ruth to, on those 2 items, when you can.
Yeah.
Chime in and report back so we can keep making progress.
We will do that.
Thank you. Anything else?
Is there backup for that? Was any package presented to all from Terry Hahn?
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
yes.
Probably would be helpful.
There's
for
like a
the-
Yeah, there's like 10 hours of videos.
There's a series of books, videos, right?
I think it's on the
Yeah, those,
website,
yeah.
right?
I'll send links out.
I think a lot of the warehouse point stuff is still on the website from when we did all the public engagement stuff.
There were PowerPoints for the public that would be a quick way to get the story without having to read it all. The PowerPoints pull to me that salient points right out. Anything else under business meeting? Nothing on executive session, so motion to adjourn would be in order.
Motion to adjourn?
Second,
Second.
all those in favor?
Uh,
All right.